Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Confident Hypnotherapist podcast. This week, I have Greg Riley joining us. Greg, thank you so much for your time today.
G'day, Lawrence. I'm really looking forward to this. Very much
Me
so.
too. And, I was just saying to you, and I'll share with the people watching this podcast, that this particular episode is the one where I prepared the absolute least. Normally, I have my safety net of questions just to the side there. So if you ever see me doing this kind of look, you know what I'm doing. This time I don't. This time it's literally just a conversation between a couple of mates around a few different topics. So I really thank you for making it this afternoon to do this.
That's great. I mean, I love these conversations, and they just tend to go where they want to go, and that's just what we do as far as hypnotherapists go. You can have as a bigger script as you want, but as you know, it goes off into a complete tangent.
It goes off on different tangents, absolutely. And so the reason why I wanted to interview you was because of, and I've got it in air quotes on my page, a word spirituality.
Yeah.
And, we were chatting earlier today, and I think I said to you something along the lines of, in the past year, I've become more aware of my spirituality.
Yeah.
But in that process of doing it, I recognized that I was always that. I just didn't recognize it as that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I still didn't know exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Which is a paradox in itself in many ways. And
yes.
You said to me earlier today, yes, the first lesson is to drop the word spirituality.
Correct. Drop it all together.
So my first question to you then would be, okay, I'm happy to drop the word spirituality. What words would replace it?
Why?
Because
spirituality is not a word, it's an experience. You can't put a word on the experience. It's a place of being, it's a place of it's something we're trying to label, which is not labelable, right?
So maybe this is my analytical mind.
Yeah, you can't label.
To make sense of it, you're right, it's a label, trying to go, this is where it fits. And
you're trying to label a cap of water in an ocean, right? it's not possible, and again, you're trying to give a human construct around, spirit, trying to label, think that as far as, consciousness goes itself in the human experience, spirituality is just like a religion, and it's been used in many different ways, in many different formats, right? So you've got Buddhism, you've got different kinds of cults who use it spiritual. You've got Gandhi was spiritual. You've got people call Oprah spiritual. They're all different versions of what spirituality means. And to me, it just means that, again, it's another label. We got to follow some kind of dogma. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's a presence about who you are. So, and I don't know, I mean, this quote's been used a number of thousands of times by different people. And it is not about what you achieve in life. It's really about who you become. And that's the journey of life. And that's the real, reason why you incarnate and come here and choose life and choose things to go through. It's not what you achieve and what you do. It's what you become in that search for that kind of, thing for life, right? We're so focused on the external about what we're going to do and achieve and get and have, and none of that's the answer. So spirituality, for me is whatever you want to make it. That's the real thing, and don't label it. So that's people are so, again, trying to go, I'm spiritual and I can do the downward dog and I eat organic stuff and I've done 4,000
because organic food isn't spirituality, and the downward dog position isn't spirituality either. You said before
that, look at that,
and yeah. I get that, because for me, I can feel a spiritual. I'm using air quotes now every time I use it, because it's like, don't use it. But I could have like a spiritual experience listening to certain music, for instance. I can feel like it's connecting me to something that is far greater than what this gel is.
It's the new age shame, right? It's the if you don't eat organic and you don't pray to some way of the sun god, or you eat organic and have beads and a beard and long hair and a bun, that you're not somewhat spiritual, right? Again, it's all just, new age shaming. There's so much of that narcissism these days that this is the way you're meant to go, and you live in Byron Bay and do this and do that. It's so not,
So
right?
is spirituality gluten-free is the question there.
I think it might be.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
See, if you're not gluten free, you're not
Is
spiritual.
the spirituality organically harvested?
But that's the thing. Like I eat meat, and I've had this many conversation with a person I know who's vegan, and she'll tell me to the cows come home that I am not spiritual enough, and I'm misleading people by eating meat. That's just their belief system. I mean, that's the whole point of this stuff, is everyone's here on a journey, and we are different versions of ourselves, right? I mean, we are split from consciousness in a duality into then a three-dimensional world, which is matter, which then is split into time and space, and then from there goes into a fact of it's a consciousness awareness, right? So we are all one, having a different experience, right? So but then you get these people telling other people that I am more spiritual than you because I'm vegan and I wear hemp clothes, right? So
when did you become aware of your spiritual self? What was that experience for you?
Oh, look, I was always, I was brought Catholic, so that's probably shame from day one that you're not good enough. No, I used to do it when I was a kid. I used to astral travel, so I used to be able to walk out go to my body, walk down the room, walk down the end of the road, go through portals and all that stuff. I didn't think much of it when I was a kid, right? So that sort of went when I started, probably 10, 11 stuff. And then, did the whole thing, went through school, normal stuff, 18, 19, put enough drugs up my nose to poke a stick at. Had a lot of fun, had everything, had, the job, the car, the house, the girlfriend, the whole lot. And it just didn't fit. I mean, it wasn't happy. It wasn't, because there was all that external stuff. It's like, get this. And there's all the way, how, we've been brought up as, our ages, right? Because I'm 46. How old are you, Lawrence?
48.
All right. So you're the same generation, right? So yeah. we're sort of,
I had to think for a second. I actually do seriously forget my age. It's ridiculous.
And I sort of went for a place where I started doing martial arts and then searching for something a bit deeper in that. And then I remembered back those, but I didn't really connect it. So my thing was always about trying to improve myself and trying to get to the place where I was improving my life, and because it wasn't in synergy. And something innate inside of me said, there's something more to this, right? There's something more than just this, right? Because just didn't fulfill me. So I think part of me was always born with the fact that I was destined to search for some kind of truth and meaning. And that started in my early 20s, and hasn't stopped. So I wouldn't say, when did I become spiritual? I'm a spiritual being.
It's fair to say that it's one of the things I almost have to have a disclaimer on with this interview is that my questions are sometimes going to come out even verging on naive at times, because it's that lack of experience in this particular area. It's only when someone says that question back that I go, oh yeah, you don't become spiritual, you kind of always are. I guess the question was, when did you become more aware of that aspect?
There's your question. When did you become self-aware that you're a conscious being? Yeah, probably in my early 20s. And then everything changes from then, because then you know that you're in control of your reality, right? So, because then before that, you're a passenger in your reality. And then all of a sudden you become, all right, I'm a co-creator of my reality and what I want to do and stuff like that. So self-awareness is probably the more thing that fits with spirituality. Rather than use the word spiritual, when did you become self-aware? That's, that has many meanings, right? So yeah, probably, early 20s when I truly awoke to what was inside, not external.
And for you, having that experience of self-awareness, it's not like, one of the things I'm discovering the more I talk about this topic is that it's full of paradoxes.
Yeah.
In the sense that I was about to say, well, it's not like someone turned on a light switch inside you and you just suddenly were aware of everything that was to deal with consciousness and awareness. Yeah. But in some ways, yes, they did as well. It's kind of this paradox that goes on.
Yeah.
But in terms of that journey that you were talking about before, I can't imagine that it was just you woke up one day and there was this self-awareness, and that was it, that it's
No,
evolved over time.
exactly. Yeah, and it's still evolving. I mean, what I know now compared to when I was in my early 20s is frightening. And some of the stuff I believed in my early 20s, compared to now, is light years apart. And we continue to go down that journey as life goes on. So yeah, it's you never really have that. Yeah, okay, look, I'm self-aware kind of stuff. And I think for a lot of stuff is when you become self-aware, you also become aware to the lies you're telling yourself and the decisions that I make and going through the hard decisions. And I, part of the big thing for me was understanding that life is duality of light and dark, and the shadow you have to love, and the shadow is why you come, and you have to embrace the shadow because that's where your whole growth lies, and that's how you know who you truly are.
Absolutely. We spend so much time pushing away that part of us that we don't want other people to discover, or that we're ashamed of, and instead we should be embracing it and recognizing that it's a part of that complete who we are.
Yeah, you can't be light without dark,
and
you can't be hot without cold. I mean, the thing is, there is no true cold. It's only an absence of heat. There is no true hate. There's only an absence of love, right? And love is what binds the whole universe together. So it's when you wake up, so to speak, let's use that terminology just for the sake of this. When you wake up, it opens up a Pandora's box of other things you can't shut the door on. And that's the thing. And, relationships change and you're so much more just calm and stuff. I was having this chat with Emma Morano a while ago, and, people kind of say, Greg, your pace is as if you're just slow and you're a sloth. And it's like, because nothing really phases me. Nothing. I don't get upset with, except for my trigger the other night.
Different story.
It's a different story.
Yeah.
But I just don't get worried about stuff. There's no stress in my life. There's just things just happen. And when you realize that your soul's bringing these experiences into you to actually, grow and to experience, it's a great thing. And I was watching a show the other day about near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very funny that this lady had the near-death experience, and she was told that someone was going to die before he was 18 years old. She didn't believe it. Anyway, it happened. But when she was in that near-death experience thing, she asked the question, why? Why does he have to be taken before he's 18? And these apparently beings said to her, there's beauty in every aspect of life, even death.
Mm.
Now that's profound.
Yeah.
Right. And this is, kind of stuff that I love this stuff. Right. And then it opens up Pandora's box to go, well, is life predestined? Because while she's in a near-death experience, she's being told by these beings of light that her son, before he was 18, he was going to die. And he did. Right. So then you get a point is, why bother?
Yeah.
Life is predestined. Why bother? And then you go, I say, it's great. It makes your head hurt.
Right. And it's funny because when I was studying at university, I was studying philosophy there. And one of the philosophies that I really gravitated towards was existentialism.
Yep.
And within that philosophy is the belief that there is nothing ahead of us.
Mm.
I think is something that can completely frighten a lot of people, the thought that there is actually nothing ahead of us.
Yeah.
For me, for some reason, I always found it quite comforting in a sense that there was this space in front of us that was yet to be occupied by anything other than what we create and put into it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's real or not. None of us know. It doesn't really matter. It's just a paradigm of reality that allows us to function.
Yeah.
But it was a paradigm of reality that calmed me down when I felt anxious.
So here's a little secret that I use within my intake forms, right? So one of the questions I ask for people is, if you had no fear of death, what would you change?
Yeah.
And it changes the whole thing altogether, because I realize that a lot of the things they're doing through life is based on the fear of death, right? Mm. So if I say, look, if you had no fear of death, what would you do? I'd just go and do this and this and this. A bit like the question about if you couldn't fail, right? People have this thing about this death experience, and I have zero fear of death. I've experienced what it's like on the other side, and it's just words cannot describe the expansiveness of consciousness you get, and when you leave your physical body, right? But other people, I know people that don't get that, right? So it's trying to convey the fact that you know helping people understand that they're a spiritual being first is probably the first step of going, okay, well, yes, you're a physical being, but you're got a spiritual aspect to that. And when you're talking before about trying to help people understand this, it's very difficult because you can't prove it.
Yeah.
Right? Not like you can prove certain things in the material world. It's like, okay, I used to think, the world was flat. Now it's round. Well, depending on who you speak to, but it's it's one of those things, right? It's that you can prove certain things. It's a so I try not to convince anybody, and that's not my role, is to sit there and just preach to convert or preach to people and say, no, you must follow me, you must do what I say. People will come to you when they're ready, and that's also the journey that people are on. Some people are just, that's their place of consciousness where they are right now, is to experience that life and that existence, and you can't interfere with that. And that's also why certain things, where if someone's having a life where things are happening to them that are quite bad, let's just say, fall into a war torn zone and they're experiencing that kind of stuff, you can have empathy with that stuff, but also their soul's chosen to experience that.
Yeah.
There's a purpose behind that. And that's when we talk about levels of seeing things, if you're in your ego and you're in that thing of, you'll fight against that. This world is created for certain reasons, to have experiences, right? We're not meant to come here and experience this wonderful, uplifting life like Kim Kardashian, who does bugger all, right? We're all about contrast, and that's how God or creation or source understands itself, through different experiences of different bodies and different humans, right? Through emotions. It can't do that unless it has contrast.
Yeah.
So you got to let those people have that experience, as bad as it is, right? So which is where I get into arguments about certain things. Why don't you go and pay? Why don't you go and give the homeless guy $50? I'll go and talk to the homeless guy, but am I going to interfere with what his life is experiencing? Because that might be perfect for what he's meant to be doing.
Yeah.
What the soul wants to do. You don't know. So Pandora's box, mate. That's the whole problem with it.
You know what? Even when I speak to, the great thing about doing this podcast is that I get to speak to so many different hypnotherapists from so many different walks of life. One of the questions I usually always ask is to explore what it was that brought them to hypnotherapy in the first place. How did they discover this hypnotherapy? And quite often it's come via means of a hardship or a challenge that life had presented that they had to overcome. And for me, it's funny how often a version of that story comes forward in that question. In some ways, it almost feels like the universe has said, I'm going to give you this problem, but I'm also going to give you this problem in a way for you to learn something completely new and go on to help so many other people as a result of it.
Yep.
You're going to survive this hardship. You're going to survive this challenge. It's also going to give you an insight and a resilience that you need to be able to work with these people. And you're going to go on and help lots and lots of people. And that's a really beautiful thought in itself.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing thing. And that's sort of the, I'd love, I did my hypnosis back in 2009 with a guy named Peter Smith, and Pete's great. Pete's fantastic, right? So I started from the spiritual side first. So I did, I'm a qualified life between lives, Michael Newton therapist and all that kind of stuff. They went full spiritual, right? So I came in from the other end of hypnosis. I didn't come in from anxiety or depression or anything else. I came in from complete left of field, right? And that was a great understanding, because reading those books like your Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, Your Life Between Lives by Michael Newton. I've got a few of them here. Now obviously Michael's passed on, and his wife just recently passed on as well too. And Pete was fantastic. He really guided me at the time to understand certain things and way to do certain stuff. but also found as I grew in what I was doing that, hypnosis was much bigger than what I originally thought.
Mm.
And, through all the people I see through from the psychic stuff and the healing side of things, people were coming from the fact is their life wasn't right. But where I found psychic readings limiting was there's no answer.
Mm.
Sit there and go, hey, right, okay. And I'll give you an example. Like there's a lady rock on the weekend and she's in a bad relationship. Nothing's really happening. She's in a job she doesn't like. And, from a psychic side, she's wanting me to tell her everything's going to be okay. And job's going to magically change. And all of a sudden the relationship's going to magically change. And, I'm fairly honest with what I do. People kind of, my reputation precedes me that I don't fluffy shit up psychic readings. I'm pretty straight down the line, right? And that's why people come and see me. And I just said, look, your life's just not going to change. You're going to be in the same position in 12 months' time. And unless you do change, and if you want to do that, then I can help in other areas. But from a psychic perspective, this reading is over in 10 minutes because where you are right now, you're not going to change. And you can go to as many psychics as you want and go and get them to tell you what you want to hear, but you'll come back to me in 12 months' time because it'll be worse than where you're at. Mm. And that's where I sort of got to the point is, it was limiting to what I was doing from where I came from. So that's where the hypnosis came in, is that, part of the coaching as well too, is that, we asked me to start about my hypnotherapy's gone in different areas in the last, couple of years. And, I thought, well, it definitely has, but from a reason of research to understand what was I doing that I didn't label as hypnosis, but I was already doing.
Yep.
Other stuff with Clive and the 3 Ps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was already doing that. I've been doing that for 20 years, right? I hadn't labeled it as the Citibank's the 3 Ps thing.
Yeah, for those watching who don't know what 3 Ps are, they're not peas in a pod. It's 3 principles. Check it out. Fascinating stuff.
Fascinating stuff, right? I've been preaching that stuff for years, right? I just hadn't labeled it that way, right? And it's fascinating to see it coming. And I love the group. So the last 18 months, I've met yourself. I met, Clive. I've met, Helen. I've met, Dane. I've met Michael. I've met Emma. I mean, there's so many good people I've met through all this stuff that is so different to what I experienced in the psychic world, which was just, how can we try and eat each other, right? So it's been really good to then just, expand in different areas and just go, well, how can I start blending some of this stuff that I've, been doing, but then how have I actually seen that there's gaps in other areas that I can actually upskill in as well too. So, so I think I've just fallen into meeting the right people and learning, and you never stop learning. That's the whole point. That
is the whole point, is that because as individuals we're constantly changing and evolving, so we're going to be different over time, and that's going to impact on how we do the work that we do as well.
But I found that everything I was doing anyway was coming from an inside perspective, and it was just that I hadn't had it. Because I'm just more of a no labels man, like I said at the start, just dump the word spirituality, right? It's just what we do. And, I've struggled, like I've just put together a program, 5 dimensions program. And because I've had, and that's, what Clive sort of helped me with is just go, Greg, put this down on paper because it's, it's seriously gold what you do, but you need to have it on paper because you just can't have it up in your head, just, shooting from the hip, right? Yeah, you need to have it frameworked properly. So when someone asks you about it, you can go, hey, this is what it's all about, which is good. So, but look, it's great. There's some things I just go, yeah, it's just not for me. And it's not to say it's not right and it doesn't help people. It's just like, it's just not for me.
Resonating with you. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is. And, some people get upset the fact that it's like, oh, no, you're dishing. It's like, it's just not for me. My clients come to me because I don't go backwards. I promote forwards, right? And people know that, and that's okay, right? So I had a guy last week goes, do you do timeline theory? And I went, no. I said, here's a list of names, go and see this person. If you want to go get,
be very vocal about the fact that you don't do regression work.
I actually do, but I don't label it that way.
Right. Okay. So, and well, this is you and your no labels, right? This is a trick that I'm picking up on from.
Yeah. Because you're always contrasting him about, if you don't go here, you go there, right? And you always will talk about going back in the past and the initial session about what was your background like and where'd you come from. But I don't do formal regret. I mean, I do past life regression, so I do lie, right? But I don't do a
real
formal
regression back. Yeah.
That's a real regression, right?
Yeah.
I don't go into a formal go back through your timeline and rise above it and look down at your age and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, I've dealt with people who've had some serious trauma in their life, and I've had some great success with not going back to the IC. And when I say to people, "Hey, how would you like to not go back there but resolve your issue?" They're like, "Greg, can you please?"
Yeah, of course, that would make a lot of sense.
I've been speaking to counsellors and all that stuff, and all I do is talk about the past. And this is the people like, you had Carl Smith, like, the guys, I've got a lot of admiration for him, Freddie Jacquin, Anthony Jacquin, Jason Lynette. I mean, all those, Laurie Hammond. I'm interviewing Laurie again in a couple of weeks, right? There's
Just a delight, isn't she? She's just such a beautiful soul and energy.
I asked her, like, seriously, if she smiles anymore, right, she'll freeze that way. She won't change her expression ever again. I bet you when her apartment was flooding, she was probably still smiling. That's how. I hope she listens to this.
That she's genuinely that. She's genuinely that happy and content.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing her and just thinking, wow, you make such a genuine impression.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to feel that energy through Zoom as well was
experience. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I talk about the awakening I've had in the past year, it's always come back to my recognition of energy and that feeling of energy.
So what's energy then? Tell me about that.
In the past, I would have said it was rapport, but I think it's more than rapport. I feel that it's this kind of it's a felt sense of something. And this is where, I said to you before we hit record that my articulation around this is so primitive, because it's a whole new experience for me even still.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is I notice a difference between the energy being there and not being there.
Yeah.
And that has become something that's been...
Energy is always there, mate. So how do you know it's between energy not being there and being there?
Well, it's a difference between my awareness of the energy being there and my awareness of the energy not being there. And I say that though, I know that when I feel the words I use is connected to something higher, whatever that is, I feel that it's just flowing through me. It's just there. I don't have to think about it. It's just there. And it's funny, we're coming back to, I just did an interview with Sarah, and we were talking about intention. And I was saying to her, well, that's a big question here. Let's start. What's intention? Let's go. And, she was talking about it being, the thought in your mind. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because I know that when I feel connected, that thought isn't blocking the way. It's a flow of energy that's just going through me.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I feel disconnected, it feels very much like I'm trapped in this body and trapped in the thought. And, it's almost like the universe is going, right, going to block that energy for you for a moment, mate. You just need to figure out what you do to get back there again. And that's an interesting experience as well, to think that it's not a case of, oh, I'm connected now. And it's like the NBN. It's just, well, that's probably a bad metaphor, actually. It's, but it's for me, it's that exploration of how do I maintain a connection to that higher part that allows that flow to continue.
Because you're always connected. You never lose that connection. That's the thing with it, is you're always in flow.
How do I maintain the perceived connection to the higher part?
There's a thing.
Got to keep redefining the question.
There's a thing above your head, above your shoulders, called your head, right? Lop that part off, right? So whenever I do sessions with people, whether it's psychic or hypnotherapy or coaching, all that kind of stuff, it's always from the heart. You always got to focus on your heart, right? There's the center of the universe, the center to everything, right? If you start getting into your head, then you're trying to analyze stuff too hard.
That's something that was mentioned in Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. He was talking about the
everything.
heart and head as well.
You know, if you look at the way the energy flows, you're a Taurus, right? It's not the bull. You know? It flows in the Taurus way, so it comes up and out and back down and all that kind of stuff, right? And it, you know, articulates here in your heart chakra, right? Your heart chakra is also, you know, there's 3 above and 3 below, right? And the other thing, when I say to people about the chakras, people kind of get things about the lower 3 centers and the higher 3 centers. Don't go shaming the lower 3 centers, because your lower 3 centers are just as important as your higher 3 centers.
Yeah.
People go, oh, you got your lower 3 centers that are, you know, they're your bad parts. They're your life force. You need the lower 3, right? And, you know, so energy flows in that kind of way. Then you've got all the things like sacred geometry. Everything is a math equation in the universe. Everything comes down to mathematics, to the precise, you know, numbers, right? Everything is just, you know, so you go down that path of sacred geometry, you're going to open up your eyes into so much more as well, too, that this stuff can't be random, right? It cannot be random. And then, you know, and this is the thing, is that all of a sudden life starts to just blossom, and life starts to, you know, open up for you, and things just start to look different when you look at it from a different perspective. And there's your self-awareness. There's your awakening, so to speak, is when you shift your awareness to it being an amazing experience that you're having, that you've chosen to do this. And it's just, you know, it's just a freak of nature you're here in the first place.
There's a paradox, though, that's forming in my mind as you say that, is that if we were to accept that everything is predetermined, and does that mean that the self-talk that keeps us small, that prevents us from being the best therapist we want to be, is also a predetermined thing?
Quite possibly. I mean, these are the mysteries of the universe, my friend. Is there fate versus free will? You know, if there is fate versus free will, why are you worried about being a co-creator? It's always going to happen anyway, right?
Yeah. In which case, it's almost like it's better to accept or embrace that negative thinking in order to just let it move on.
Yeah. And then why bother setting goals and all that stuff? I mean, it says it's much better to not take the red pill, because life is much simpler sometimes living in that, you know, blue pill area, right?
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a lot of debate nowadays with scientists about if we're living in a simulation.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we're in a multi-universe. I mean, I'm sure that we're not in a universe in this thing, and it is a multi-universe.
More binary than what I realize.
Imagine if you were Simless in watching Sims and going, "Well, come on, Lawrence, you know, it's got Jerry to the left and Greg will move you to the right, and there's a little joystick in heaven going like this." Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, right? But you know, we all take life way too seriously. And it's whole thing about in the Western culture, the competition and you know, trying to, you know, acquire this stuff, right? And you know, one of the, you know, the biggest things that, like I said to you at the start, is that one of the biggest things I tell people when they first start, which a lot of people just don't know, it's, you know, there's been conditioned about what you need to get or who you need to be, you know, what you need to achieve, and it's like that is never why you're here. It's all about who you become. And then people go into, where's my purpose? And if I hear that one more time, I'm going to stab myself in the eye, really, because people are fascinated with
Greg. So
again, I'm not backward coming forward with stuff.
Having said that, you know, because I've been trained in ACT, I'll often talk to people about living a life that's meaningful and purpose-driven. Is that different, though, to trying to discover your purpose? I don't know.
I know if you live a life based on value-based purposes, then you're fine. That's all good, right? But if you're based your life on acquiring stuff through purpose, you know, what I meant to do, what's my job, what's my purpose in life to you know, from a job perspective, I'm meant to achieve it. A lot of people, especially from, you know, I'm speaking from the psychic reading side of things, people come to me is, what's my purpose in life? And I say, your purpose is to do this, which is an expression of love. You kind of see their light, you can see their eyes and their face expressions go, oh God, is that all?
Is that all there is?
That's the greatest gift of all.
Yeah, right? I agree.
What about my career? What about my house? Right? It's like, dude, if that's what you're chasing, welcome to unhappiness. Right? But purpose is very much in line with passion,
Yeah.
which is then intertwined with your values, right? So it's really important that, you and I, we're deprogramming people from the program.
Mm.
That's what we're finding, is that unprogramming people from what they've been told about what
Over
their
their life.
purpose is,
Yeah,
because it's
exactly.
very, yeah, because it just breeds, depression, anxiety, and all kinds of, trauma and alcoholism and drug taking and all that kind of stuff, right? It's just horrible. When you drop that persona, which is hard, and it's not stopping people to go and be successful. It's like, go and be successful as you want, right? Conquer the world, and someone like yourself, you'll be really successful because this passion is driving you,
Mm.
right? Not because you want to be a hypnotherapist so you can make a lot of money so you can drive a Lamborghini. And this is why, again, me being quite forward is that, I might send, again, we can talk about this. So I hope these people listen to this comment, right? These fucking coaches, six-figure fucking coaches who are putting their pictures in front of Lamborghinis,
Mm.
mailing everybody, I can make you a six-figure coach, when they have nothing behind them, nor any money, nor any clients.
Yeah.
But they're marketing to the lowest common denominator. And they've got hundreds of
Well, they're
clients.
marketing to people's fear, their FOMO,
Yeah,
their more material side as well.
correct.
Always remember Scott Sandland. I think I've mentioned this video in a few of my podcasts in the past, but he did this great rant a few years ago where he basically said, if you think a training is going to be some magic bullet that makes you a great therapist, then you're fooling yourself. What you need to do
Yeah.
is get out there and to just practice, 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 practice.
Oh, God, horrible. Horrible at the start. I feel sorry for my clients at the start. Horrible.
Mm.
There is nothing like front, front of the line, experience
Yeah.
at all.
You did mention something recently though online, and I'm paraphrasing it here, but I think you said that you saw your work nowadays as being more about working with people on their relationship with themselves.
Yeah, so that's another thank you, Clive, for this, right? So, and it's good having this, the group that we've got, feeding back to each other, because, Julie's been my partner and she's been great at this, mirroring this stuff, right? It's been trying to find what I did was always about, go and do this and go and do that and go and do this. But then it came back to, what have I always done?
Mm.
And what am I really good at? And the thing was always, through my corporate stuff, what I've always been good at is building relationships with people and doing that stuff, right? And getting things, be able to, get things done through people by building relationships, not by telling them what to do.
Mm.
And even through the psychic stuff is that, even though I was quite abrupt and straight down the line and quite rude sometimes with some of the stuff, it was really loving, and it came from a way that I would get, even without being on the TV show, and that I was, ridiculously busy anyway, because the referral base was just like, go see Greg, but here's a warning before you go. He ain't going to tell you what you want to hear, but the best thing he'll ever do, right? But it was all about building, like I said, rapport and building relationships. And then it was all about then really what do I do? And that was the thing about, well, everything in life is a relationship, whether it's your life, your work, your partner, your children. And that's where the penny dropped. It went, well, why should I try and niche into an area that, because I was, I tried the men's stuff, and then, half of my clients are females. Like, well, why are you doing that? It's like, oh, okay, right. Good point. And so I come back to, I don't have to. I just build relationships, and whatever that relationship you want it to be, whether it is you want to have, a great life with your partner, your family, your kids, which is probably my number one thing, because me being a father now and a family man, that's probably my driving force. So I see a lot of people for, that stuff, like, again, relationship coaching, relationship breakdown, divorce. 'Cause I've been divorced as well too, so I've got, experience with that stuff. But even in a relationship with themselves, I'm seeing some people just who are single, who have just lost, and I've, what's my purpose in life? Well, let's find your purpose. It's not going to be external, it's going to be internal to you, and find that spark within inside you, because that external drive is leading to more disappointment in that, and it's just a great thing. And then that's when the thing just went bang. So that's been a big change in the last 12 months, is that I've sort of, from a place where I didn't label anything, I've now, isn't it great? I'm now labeling what I do, right?
It's cruelly ironic, isn't it?
Right.
And the fact that it's captured all in this one podcast is even better.
I am just a man of contrast, you know.
We all are. We're all a man of, talk about being a walking contradiction.
So I'm sort of just gone a path of just, you know, I just, you know, and when I say it, it actually just flows. It feels like, you know, somebody's got to try and push down the whole thing about this is what I do and I help people. Just like, I don't worry about that. So I just like, what do you do? I just, you know, I help people build the best relationships they can, whether it's financially, relationships, personally, themselves, whatever. I don't care. I've got something that can, you know, smash you. And then the best thing about what I do, I've got the therapy. So my model's called the 5 dimensions, right? So we work on, so the third dimension is based on physical world and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But the 4th dimension is based on being that spiritual body, being that, you know, that consciousness. And the 5th dimension is basically being egoless and non-identifying with the body and all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like it's a intertwined therapy, 3rd dimensional, 4th, 5th dimensional mix of stuff that we do. So
that feels really niche.
Oh, it's great.
Like, yeah. Does anyone else do that? Do you know of anyone else?
Well, not with my experience. But people probably do, right? I shouldn't. It comes because a wanker saying that, right? Not with my experience, right? No one's doing it like I am. And that's and you know, my style is my style. But you know, it's I don't own that stuff. It's just that I've, you know, figured out a way that I can blend
the correct filter, and that's what's
yeah.
It's one thing we advocate in this podcast all the time is do whatever train you want, but make sure you make it uniquely you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I said to a girl yesterday, she was saying, because I'm talking about, because I still do psychic reads, right? And I said, look, you know, if we go down this path of, you know, doing this stuff, right, there's a whole questionnaire to fill out. And then I will interview whether I accept you or not. She said, what are you talking about? And I said, this isn't just if you're ready, you get to jump on board with me. It's like, no, I choose you, right? And that's the difference as well too. Is like, if it doesn't meet the match, I won't do it. And then she was a bit, you know, oh really? It's like, yeah, no, this is a full application process. You got to apply to do this work, right? Because I'm going to spend, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months with you. I'm putting everything into this, and if you're not ready, then I'll just call it and say you're not ready for this, and go back and do some work and make some improvements here. Then you might be ready. But it's a strange way to be, right? So yeah, a bit weird. But
what do you think, knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time to, you know, meet that younger Greg just starting out as a hypnotherapist, what advice would you give to that younger version of you?
Go and do stage hypnosis as quickly as you can.
Right, because that's the other thing you've jumped in on recently, and love the YouTube video you posted recently as well with the name feature. So what is it about stage hypnosis that, because you know, you and I have been through 2 stage hypnosis courses together.
You have? Yes.
And you've been brave enough to get up in front of an audience a couple of times now.
Yeah, I've done probably at 8 or 9 now. So I've reached a friend of mine, Jason Varga. Jason's great. Jason's an old school mentalist and hypnotherapist and stage. He's been a stage hypnosis for a donkey's years. He used to do all the comedy shows and all that kind of stuff, right? He's got some great stories. And so I reached out to Jason. Said, hey, do you want to do some shows together, some parties while we had COVID on? Because you can only have 20 people. And I thought you couldn't do big people. So I thought, let's just do some small parties for people. And they went gangbusters, right? So we're doing all these parties for, you know, small groups of people. We're doing some psychic stuff and mentalism. And I'm not doing mental, he's doing the mentalism, right? And then doing the stage hypnosis stuff, right? But for me, you know, where the penny drops with the stage hypnosis stuff is it's not about the stage hypnosis. As Rowan and Michael and Dan have said, it's nothing to do with stage hypnosis. It's the fact that what you're doing to people is you're proving to them the power of their mind and that what they believe becomes their reality. And by doing stage hypnosis, we can make people do some things that people kind of go, oh shit. Yeah. And there's a big oh shit moments. You can see in their faces, you kind of go, right. this is more than just what these guys are showing us. Yes, it's all fun and games, and we're all having a good laugh about, Rob over here forgot his name and he's got no idea what's going on, right? The most skeptical guy in the room, his wife and his daughter brought him along, and all of a sudden he can't remember his name. Holy crap, right? And then, that's a doorway into say, there's your reality, right? So that other day, on that day, there was a girl there who was like a 30, 40 cigarette smoker a day, and we actually hypnotized her not to smoke for 3 hours.
Amazing. So good.
And she couldn't do it. She was sitting there going, seriously, guys, I'm waiting till 6 o'clock because I'm going to have a massive smoke then, because I cannot smoke right now. And everyone's blown away, right? And that's where it sort of gets to, is it's all about bringing it back into how, your identity basically, who you are and what you believe in, creates results in your life and stuff like that. So that's the really big thing that I found, that it's a quick way to actually prove to people that, just the power of hypnosis is, it's a really good doorway to show people how strong their belief systems are and their identity is, right? So, and even that word, the power of hypnosis, like we're doing a mind trick or something like that. It's not really a mind trick. It's it's a state of being, right? So, yeah, it's so if I go back there, and also probably just to go, keep going. You need to make mistakes. You need to go and do this other stuff. You need to go and bugger up the stuff. You need to go and have a divorce. Off you go, right? Go and do this, and go and do a stupid TV show and all that kind of stuff.
Which you won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an experience. My
Yes.
God. Oh.
You did a stupid TV show that was on national television here in Australia, which I vaguely remember watching. It was a little while back, wasn't it?
2011, yeah. 2011.
Yeah. And of course you won. You were named the one.
Yeah. It's as you found out, it's not something when I meet people, I don't say anything about it, right?
No, of course not.
And that's what people are sort of because I think Dan Candell pinged me once, and he said, when were you going to let us know about this? And I said, mate,
I remember seeing that. Like, hang on, wait up a bit. Hang on a second.
When were you going to talk about it? And it's like, mate, I don't go, big name was proclaiming about, walking the room and say, hey guys, meeting you guys for the first time. My name's Greg and I've done this. Like, I've seen people do that. They're wankers, right? It's just not me, right? I don't act like that. It's not who I am, right? So, and yeah, it's a bit of that, but
How much do you use that sense when you're working with a client?
All the time, and that's the thing that I can't teach people. So people say, "Can you teach?" I can't teach it.
No, you can't. It's something either you have or you don't. I know I actually did. I think I don't know if you know this or not. I did a spiritual meditation course last year, and it wasn't until I started that I discovered that it was actually about developing the clairs.
Yeah,
and that wasn't what I thought I had signed up for. But it was interesting because he had said to me, he did a reading, and like you, he didn't hold back.
Yeah,
and I loved that about that reading. And he said to me at some point, you haven't learned to stand in your power yet.
Yeah.
You need to learn to stand in your power. And I thought, what the hell does that even mean? And that's when he said, look, you might be interested in this course, and I do be interested for you to learn that.
It's funny because there's always there's these masks you wear. Because like quite outside of a reading, I'm as placid as you'll be, but you get me inside a reading and I've got somebody who's not doing what they should be. I'm ruthless. Right. And not in a bad way. Like,
but you're there to convey a message.
Correct, right? And
you need
and it's a great experience, and people get a lot of change out and stuff like that. But I forgot what I was going to say now. It's sort of like I can't. Oh, it's all right. The piano analogy, right? So, psychic ability or intuitive ability is like a piano, right? Everyone can play it. Everyone can practice and play and get really good at it. There's just some people who are born naturally talented that you just can't teach that shit, right? And I can teach people to do it. I can teach people to get to a really good level of intuitive ability and read for people and use it in a clinic, whatever. But I can't teach what I do. It's just something I just can't. It just is. That's the
How much of
problem.
that do you think is, we were talking about intention before and that connection and that rapport. How much of that do you think is like the seeds or the genesis of that sense?
In what way?
Well, when we're talking about rapport, about building that connection with someone in a sense of
Yeah.
almost, being able to look into their eyes and to try to gain a sense of what they're experiencing, what they might even be
Yeah.
thinking or feeling in that moment. To me, that's not something that people would commonly do, but it's
No.
something that we kind of do as therapists is to sit with them and to be with them and to pick up not just on what they're saying, but all the other cues that are there that are being given that
Yeah.
that
And
form a completer picture.
it does. And that's where the psychic stuff gets a bit weird because it was, are you actually reading body language and all that kind of stuff? Any psychic who tells you they're not reading body language is lying to you. I'll tell you that now.
Mhm.
If they say, I don't read body language, they're lying to you. All right. Of course they do. Everyone does, right? So yeah, you do. You absolutely do. You build a picture of the person by the way they're sitting, the way that they are, and the way that they talk, and the way that they're sweating in front of you. Maybe you never know, or they burst out crying in front of you. But again, it's all about getting a result for the client. And if you're coming from an authentic place, it doesn't matter how you get there. It's about getting a result for the client that they do need. And this is also, from probably something that I learned. I'm going to go. I'm going on a tangent here, Lawrence. Sorry, I'm going to
Go for it.
go left or right. When people come to a psychic reading, there's a couple of different styles. There's fortune tellers, and then there's readings, right? And the fortune tellers will just usually do predictions and focus on the material world, the three-dimensional world, right? Then there's readings who people will focus on a whole lot of different aspects of stuff, right? And I sort of delineate it this way between people, right? So on the other side of the spirit world are these highly, highly evolved beings. They've got the information and wisdom to all stuff. They got access to Akashic records and everything in your soul journey and everything like that. And you've come to ask, should you get a haircut? Or should you change jobs? Or should you do this? Or should you do that? Do you really think they're interested?
Yeah. If I was that being, I'd probably be a little insulted that they're wasting my time with such trivial matters.
Correct. And there's where we got to get the stage for people to understand that what they're asking is from their own ego and their fear and their base where they're at. And it's getting the ability to have people wake up to the fact that the stuff they're asking for is all external.
Yeah.
And where I get upset is a lot of the psychic readers, actually go down that path and play that field and play in that area. And, oh, you're going to meet the guy named Dave in October and he's going to be your soulmate and all that kind of stuff. You're going to meet him here. He's going to be 6'4" and brown hair and all that bullshit, right? That's playing into the lower level of, reality. Whereas if you've really got a highly evolved being, they'll go, hey, make a name. Hey, Julie, you're not going to meet anybody for the next 12 months because you haven't dealt with the last two relationships because the last two were abusive. The last one cheated on you. You've got no trust issues because you're going to drag that into the next relationship because you're going to check his phone straight away. And then every time he looks at the waitress when you're out for dinner, you're going to think he's sleeping with her. So you're going to sabotage that one as well too. So unless you work on these two, you're not doing anything.
Mm.
That ain't going to make her feel any good.
Yeah.
That's what I say about raw truth.
Mm.
But she loves the psychic reading that tells her she's going to meet Dave because that makes her feel good.
It's comfort. Yeah. It's like my world is going to get better. I'm going to get my happy ending.
Exactly. And that's what you be very, very careful of with this, whole psychic reading world is the fact that don't go to people who tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Because they're usually wrong. And you will know the difference between actually, looks like I've got a mullet here, doesn't it, with the back of this? I don't have a mullet, it's the back of the chair. Party at the front going on, Lawrence, and the back. And that's probably, if someone's going for a reading, really start to do the research about why are you going in the first place? What are you asking for? Are you really just going down to that real egocentric, materialistic, third dimensional work, weight, relationship, holidays, all that kind of stuff, which you're in very much control of. If you're wanting highly, highly evolved beings to help you with that stuff, you've probably got another thing coming. So that's where I start to get a bit, you should be, help educate people on the fact that they're not the questions that they want to ask. There's a whole deeper, if they've got access to the whole universe, like you said, do they really care about that stuff?
You know that I now have this mental image of like a higher being staff room where they're kind of sitting around on their lunch break. I got asked the best question today. I've waited eons for someone to ask this question, and finally I got it. And this someone's going, yeah, I just got to know on about, am I going to stay in this job? Seriously, I'm over this shit. It's kind of that visual coming in my head.
I got so sick of it once. If I got asked one more time where my soulmate is, and that's the thing. It's like, where's my soulmate, right? And it's like, your soulmate can be your neighbor, your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your best friend. You can your work colleague, right? The people who teach you the most, right? Not usually through good shit, right? So, it can be your ex-husband who's divorced from, who you're fighting over custody with, who's teaching the most about yourself. Like, I've got a client right now, and and that's the thing, right? Ex-husband and all that kind of stuff. He's an arsehole, all that kind of shit, right? And I said, she was like, where's my soulmate? It's like, he was your soulmate. Because what's happening now is you've got so much confidence, you've got so much growth. You never had that through your whole life. He's played his role perfectly because he's done to you what you've given this wake-up call.
Yeah.
Right? And the moment, and you can see people's things change in seconds, right?
It's like the old saying, give them what you need, not what you want.
Correct. Her whole relationship with her ex-husband's completely changed now. No anger, no guilt, because she's going, okay, he's giving me a gift.
Yeah.
Right? All the way she's trying to find this soulmate.
But it's interesting because I imagine her ego was getting in the way in regards to that relationship and causing that resentment, potentially even hate to happen. But as soon as she had that frame shifted, it created a very different scenario that she found herself existing within.
And then we get into the whole question about ego, Lawrence, about, is it really a bad thing at all, right? Because the ego's bad.
Ego's a bad thing. I think it can limit us from some things, but I don't see it as necessarily being bad.
Ego's a very vital part, right? And then the thing about Eckhart Tolle's power of now, right? You can't always be in the now, right? So, and then, that's what I said before, is like, I can't wait for me to do your podcast, right? Is because all these questions about, if someone's read Eckhart Tolle's power of now, and all of a sudden they become awakened and all that stuff, it's like, well, there's dangers with just the power of now if you don't focus on anything else. Right? It's great. Be present, but not at the sacrifice of everything else.
Yeah.
Right? And, there's a lot of messages out there that, people are getting, and they've jumped on board of Eckhart Tolle, and it's like, I'm the power of now, and I'm in the present all the time, and all that kind of shit. They get nothing done, right? Because there's nothing that happens, right? So it's a minefield to try and, get around, if you're new to this stuff, to go, where do I go to try and figure out, what is this thing? How do I seek enlightenment? Well, stop seeking enlightenment, right? It's like, it's the happiness stuff. Stop trying to, seek happiness. Be.
Yep.
It's a state of awareness. You can never achieve it. Right? I must seek enlightenment. Oh, I've got to give up eating meat, right? So who says so?
Is that taking away the enlightenment by eating meat? I love how that email arrived at just the perfect time to give the sound effect we needed. Have almost that enlightenment.
That's the thing. It's such a great thing to do, because the thing I find, people don't go finding gurus. Don't follow a guru. If they're telling you to do things and try and because way I teach people is, come and listen to what I say.
Yep.
Take part of it what you want, throw the rest away, and go and learn something different.
This is very 3 Ps again, isn't it? We're getting back to there where there is no guru.
There is no guru, right?
It's just a conversation.
Correct. And although and again, this is me being completely hypocritical on myself. So when I do certain ceremonies, I'll wear all white, right? So so there are again, it's all about what you make for yourself, right? What you feel is right for yourself. Okay, so I do a lot of ritualistic stuff around certain things, like full moons and other ceremonies that I do that you know about. And, it's really, there are ritualistic stuff that we do to certain things. And, I've got a very big affiliation with the moon and the darkness and all that kind of stuff, because I love the shadow work, and I love, it's just, just me. But again, it's just a great thing to sort of just step into and start, delving into what works for you. And, some things will resonate and some things won't. I mean, I read Conversation with God years and years and years ago, and the first book was great. The rest of them are crap. Went way off the deep end, right? But the first book was fantastic, right? And then you've got other stuff there that is just as good, but it's brand new. So you got your Joe Dispenza stuff, you got your Brian Weiss stuff, you got your Greg Braden. For Christ's sake, he's brilliant, right? You should interview Greg Braden. That'd be good. That'd be one for you.
That, you know what, all these people who I'd love to approach, but I think also that in some cases, if they said yes, I would literally shit myself. I would be so caught in my head, it would be ridiculous.
I mean, he's like, and again, it's having people that explain things so articulately and so well that become the bridge. And it's all about bridges, building a bridge so people can move from one state to another, right? So it's great. Like, there is no, I said, we can talk about this for hours and hours. Like Joey and I were talking about, we had to cut this short. It's like, guys, we can keep going and going and going, because we just went on about all these different things that just, there is, no answer to, but great conversations to.
Well, you were focusing on men's health at that time, and I remember saying to Joey, you really need to chat to this guy. You guys would get along well. I didn't realize that well.
But that well, yeah.
I had texts from Joe afterwards saying, I think I've met a soulmate. He's amazing. We just could have kept talking. So you do have that impact on people.
It's just a relaxing thing. I mean, just to have that tribe that has no agenda, has no ego, and also is quite supportive, but in a way that's not blowing wind up your own ass, so to speak, right? So who can deliver something when you say, listen, hey, Greg, I understand why you went down there. I wasn't going to pull you up on that stuff. I'm glad you did, but it was a big mistake. And I said, well, it wasn't really, but it was wrong. Wasn't it? Completely wrong. But there was nothing wrong with it, right? And there's the whole thing with life, is you can get upset with and go, well, did I make the mistake then? But was it really a mistake? Was it not a mistake? And that's where the group comes in. It's fantastic, where we've got, I think, a pretty tight knit, group of people that I really enjoy, actually. So
I'm conscientious of the time, knowing that you and I both have something that we need to go to.
He's going to kill us
fairly soon. And, I have the feeling that perhaps we might need to do another podcast with you down the track to continue this conversation even more.
Just on your title of the podcast, A Confident Hypnotherapist, I want to finish with this. It's only through just the sheer amount of work that you get confident. And it's doing it and doing it and failing and doing it. And like you, I've been to many, 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 many courses. There's no one magic bullet that you can do. Well, I do love Carl's stuff. Love it. I love the no content stuff. It's really good. And I love Clive's stuff, right? But that works for me, right? But I it's all about just seriously doing it and doing it and doing it, finding your own, style.
I think the secret, and I'll share this between you and the listeners here. I'll even bring the microphone up so it's a little bit. I think it's this. There's all these people out there that are teaching all these different techniques. That technique works for them because it's uniquely them that they're bringing into that technique.
Yes.
We need to take all that stuff that we learn and then put it through us once we are aware of who us is, and that becomes what we offer to the world. As Melissa Tears says, all this shit is made up.
Yes.
And I love that. That to me is such a liberating, almost punk attitude to have to hypnotherapy. All this shit is made up. It's just whatever we can bring to it. But what we bring to it has to be from creativity. What's creativity? It's an expression of the soul. And so,
there's all spiritual on you. Hey, you going all spiritual on me, Lawrence?
well, no, I've always said that. I've always said that creativity is the articulation of the soul, is the exact words I always used to say.
Yeah.
When you hear someone sing, it doesn't matter what the words are. You can feel whatever it is through the timbre, the tone of their voice.
Experience.
Exactly. And it's the same thing. Take the learnings and put it through your filter, and that becomes what you offer the world.
Correct. And look, it's great. I've got it, mate. I am so glad that I fell across your listening or Crane podcast or Crane. What was it? The course you did, the Crane.
Through recording
Hypnotherapist, right? Just come across it. The universe has done me a favor and just plopped this in front of me and gone, you need to go and meet this guy. And I'm so glad it did.
Works in weird ways. So, for instance, I offered Mark Lukowski from the US to come over to Australia to do his first international training at HQ. From that, I met Emma Romano and Trish Palmer. And, from meeting Emma, it kind of caused that collaboration where we had Dan Candell, Michael DeShellett come over, where I met you properly. All these things are synergy.
Yeah.
All synergy. They all feed into each other.
Something greater going on, which we're not meant to know about yet.
You know what? I think it's all because we say yes to the opportunities that present themselves.
Yeah, we do. But thank you for creating this podcast for everybody else. I know I've listened to all of them and they've been fantastic.
Thanks,
and they've been awesome. So I want to say a big thank you for sharing this, because there's some stuff in there that people who are listening to this, you pick up some great techniques and great tips.
I hope so. I create this because it's a reflection of my own insecurities, and I'm happy to be vulnerable about that with the world and go, you know what, I want to be a great hypnotherapist, but I want to also talk about that self-talk in my head that I know other people have. And if by being open and vulnerable and sharing it with the world helps other people who might not be as willing to share it, bonus. That's exactly what makes me happy. So maybe that's why the universe has said I need to go through this, is to be able to create opportunities like this.
Oh, that's great. So kudos to you, mate.
Thanks, mate. I'll let you go, only because I know that we have that meeting very shortly. I'll see you again at the next meeting. Thanks everyone for watching. I know this has been probably one of the more casual ones that I've ever done, so I hope people have really enjoyed the difference in this one. Greg, thanks for your insight and your wisdom as always, and we'll see everyone in the next podcast.
Cheers, mate.